Adult women account for nearly half, 49% of all human trafficking victims detected globally. Women and girls together account for 72%, with girls representing more than 3 out of every 4 child trafficking victims. At least 200 million women and girls aged 15 to 49 years have undergone female genital mutilation in 31 countries where the practice is concentrated. Violence against women and girls is a human rights violation, and the immediate and long-term physical, sexual, and mental consequences for women and girls can be devastating, including death. Calling gender violence a women's issue is part of the problem. It gives a lot of men an excuse to not pay attention. Today, we will engage in a powerful discussion of initiatives that aim to raise awareness of and combat these injustices. We will learn about their root causes and receive advice on how to take action within your community and your organization. The participants will have the opportunity to directly interact with the discussants. Please include your questions in the chat as they arise. Also, please keep your cameras on to create a more intimate environment. Today, we are featuring the following discussants. Namelokai Sein, the founder, president, and executive director of Keep Girls Safe, which is a foundation that focuses on female genital mutilation in the United States and in Kenya. We also have Murrell of the National Spiritual Assembly of the Baha'is of the US, who's going to be speaking about establishing healthy masculinity. Excuse me. And we also have Priyanka Kala, a producer and photographer of the Tirkit Studio, which is based in Mumbai, who will be talking to us today about domestic violence. I will take this time to allow the discussants to present themselves and their organizations. Namelokai Sein, if you can please provide some background on your work, we would really appreciate it.
Good morning, everybody. Thank you so much for tuning in today. I really appreciate everybody who has come in to continue with this discussion that we started several years ago about eradicating female genital mutilation all over the world. My name is Namelokai Sein, originally from Kenya. I reside in the United States. I'm the founder, the president, and the CEO of Keep Girls Safe Foundation. Keep Girls Safe Foundation is a nonprofit 501c registered in the state of Kansas. We are located in 2 places here in the United States, and we are also located in Kenya. In Kenya, what we do, we work with other organizations, community-based organizations, to be able to amplify the voices of survivors of female genital mutilation and be able to help girls that are feeling very low self-esteem, girls who need education to be able to continue and find their voices. We amplify their voices by helping them in so many different ways, either getting school fees when we can be able to afford to pay for the school fees. We also help teach them the importance of learning how to take care of themselves. We also do help the parents understand the negative impacts of female genital mutilation, and we have a call for action for more, men and women to join our community to be able to help eradicate female genital mutilation in Kenya and support survivors. In the United States, we have a call for action for policymakers to be able to involve in getting us resources here in the United States to help survivors of female genital mutilation receive reconstruction surgery and mental health services. We've so far in the United States helped 27 women receive reconstruction surgery from female genital mutilation, and we are educating the community the impacts of female genital mutilation and letting them know that female genital mutilation is happening right here in the United States. So if you have any questions, I'm happy to get in the conversation, and thank you so much. Let's learn together. This is Namelokai. I'm very happy to be with you this morning.
Thank you so much, Namelokai. And we will move on to Murrell. If you can please provide background on the work that you do.
Thank you, Milka Rodriguez. Greetings, everyone. Uh, I am I serve as the principal representative for the Baha'is of the United States at the United Nations. And I've worked with the Baha'i community in some capacity at the UN for 3 decades now. And the Baha'i faith is an independent world religion. It has as one of its core principles that the equality of women and men is a spiritual truth that must be brought forth into reality in our daily lives and actions. And when I first began to work with the office around every February, there was a lot of activity and energy, and I realized it was because the Commission on Status of Women was approaching, and the Baha'i community has been heavily involved in that aspect. And over the years, participating in the commission, and subsequently civil society's preparation for the Fourth World Conference on Women and the Beijing Platform for Action. So in commemoration of the 25th anniversary of the Fourth World Conference in the Beijing Platform for Action, the Baha'i international community has produced an award-winning film entitled Glimpses into the Spirit of Gender Equality, which offers a glimpse into how change is beginning to take root at the level of culture in certain communities through conscious action, as well as glimmerings of what we might characterize as a gender equal future. And I'll put a link in the chat so you can view that film and use it in your work. So as I said, I've been doing this for 3 decades, and I know all the statistics. And over the last 2 weeks, you've heard many statistics about the status of women or the lack thereof. And about 10 years ago, during a CSW, I attended a presentation of A Call to Men, which is an organization that looks to raise men's and boys' consciousness about their collective socialization so that they can think critically about how they might be reinforcing or passing on harmful beliefs. And so they can challenge those beliefs in other men. Because when we address the root of these problems, from domestic violence and sexual assault to sexual harassment and workplace discrimination, we are paving the way for gender equality. And I've been working with them for the last 10 years in many ways through their trainings and working to support women's work as well. And one other group among the many that I've worked with is a group, I'm in New York, is a group called Connect NYC. And they use transformative education where participants critically examine beliefs and behaviors, shifting their perceptions of violence and illuminating its many dimensions. Graduates of their trainings develop skills to help individuals and communities keep women and children safe, explore ways to hold abusive people accountable, and cultivate relationships based on mutual respect. So this is a background of some of the work that I've been involved talking and having a great discussion. Shout out to Yvonne O'Neill.
Thank you so much, Carl, for that background on the work that you do. I would also invite Priyanka Kala to give an introduction to herself, her work, and the organization she's affiliated with.
Thank you, Milka. Good morning, everyone. My name is Priyanka Kala, and I'm speaking to you all from Mumbai, India. I want to thank UN on behalf of my whole team for this great opportunity. And I'm here with you all to represent our short film, which highlights the issue of domestic violence against women in long term relationships. About the film, I just want to say that we believe that films are greatly influenced by the society, and society is greatly influenced by the films. And coming from a family where we saw and witnessed domestic violence and abuse growing up, it was already something that we knew and we wanted to talk about. So we decided to make this the subject of our first film. We thought domestic abuse only exists within the lower income classes of society or uneducated families. We didn't have the understanding of different kinds of forms of abuse which existed. When we realize it happens to everybody and in every class of our society. That's why we chose a very personal narrative of a victim, in this case, a girl in love, and tried to connect with the most difficult emotion an abuse victim feels, which is the dilemma or confusion all this creates for them because society normalizes such behavior, making it very difficult for the victims to identify and leave such situations. So, the realization and the awareness in the victims we feel is the key to end domestic violence in their own lives. And we hope that this film can help a bit in that. That's all I want to say here. Thank you very much, Milka.
So now we will demonstrate a very powerful and moving short film created by Priyanka Kala on the journey of a woman before and after the marriage of an abuser.
Sorry, there was no sound on the video, guys.
No, there wasn't.
Sorry about that. Let me just try again. Sorry, when we tried this at the practice, it worked. I'm not sure why the sound is not coming in. There are subtitles. Do you guys want to watch it with the subtitles?
No, I think it will be better with the film because the film will not lose the meaning.
Sounds good.
Sorry, somebody said something. Does anybody hear the sound?
Yeah, I
Crystal,
feel we should.
you want to send
Crystal.
it to me and I'll try to share it?
Let me try if I can play it from here and try and see if there's a sound.
Okay, I have the link. Maybe Swati or Milka. The link is it's in the scenario. So let me just.
Yeah, Priyanka said that she would share it. So if she can, Priyanka, if you can go ahead and do that.
Just give me 1 second. Crystal, can you share the link on the WhatsApp group?
I just did.
Okay.
I'm gonna try Crystal right now, okay?
Okay.
Well, Priyanka or Swati, go ahead.
Yeah. I am. Let me. Could you see it?
Yes.
Yeah.
Did you press play, Swati?
Yeah, you can see it. See it?
Yeah, no sound either.
Okay, I think I'm gonna play it on my screen.
Sorry about this, guys. I'm not sure why.
So I'm gonna share screen.
Swati, okay, thank you.
Okay, I'm gonna share my screen.
We hear it, it's all good.
There. I see you somewhere. Is this all a daze? Or just a distant memory? I can never tell. That morning. A soft, sun-kissed baby face waiting to find me. And words, they didn't take time. Are you sure this isn't a dream? With all the fantasy he paints and creates. Days, I didn't know those without him. Hopelessly losing myself in the world he opened up. Making my heart race, rush and sway all at the same time. What was I without him? We were soul special, he said. He held me close, treasuring me from the outside world. Wasn't that an evening to remember? Words unsaid, yet all out there, spoken. What was it about him?
What's wrong with you?
What was it about him? Words unsaid, yet all out there, spoken. Wasn't that an evening to remember? He held me close.
Why is he calling you on a Sunday afternoon?
He was so special, he said.
No.
No, that's not what
That means I'm lying.
No!
Huh? I'm right.
What was I without him? Making my heart race, rush and sway all at the same time. Hopelessly losing myself in the world he opened up. Days. I didn't know those without him.
Don't cry. Just listen to me.
with all the fantasy he paints and creates. Are you sure this isn't a dream?
Oh, you're here. फिर रोना तो ना, उठाना है सबको. You know what I do?
That morning, soft sun-kissed baby face, waiting to find me. Yeah, Mama.
What happened, beta? Are you okay, beta?
Yeah, Mama, I'm okay.
Are you sure?
It's okay. There. I see you somewhere.
So thank you so much, Priyanka, for sharing the video that you created with us. And with that, we want to be able to now lead into the actual discussion. I will start with some questions to lead the conversation. And I do want to emphasize that this is a conversation, and we would really appreciate if the participants would turn on their cameras so that we can engage and have this be more of an intimate environment. I will first start out with the first question. And I think it's going to be specifically towards Priyanka. How has the pandemic exacerbated domestic violence, not only in India, Asia, but worldwide?
Milka, as we know that COVID created an environment where everyone was isolated from each other and help was not easily available. You couldn't run away from an abusive or violent situations anymore, which makes anyone, a woman or a man or a child, even more vulnerable to domestic violence than ever. In India, there was definitely a exponential rise in the number of calls that the help calls that the government was getting, and it was more than ever recorded in the last past 10 years and 15 years even. And globally, I think globally some 263 million women were recorded to have faced domestic violence through their intimate partners. So raising a voice and breaking the silence and spreading awareness becomes the most important tool in fighting this injustice.
Thank you so much for your input. The next question is for Cara Murrell. If you could please elaborate on the role of men in leading initiatives that support the mitigation of abuse towards women and children through your organization, we'd really appreciate your perspective.
Well, as I said in my introductory remarks, one of the things that needs to happen for men is for them to have an awareness of um, how patriarchy plays a role in their behavior. So for many men that have patriarchy is endemic, they don't even realize the actions that they're taking are damaging or hurtful or wrong. So creating an awareness is the starting point, and you have to use whatever tool works. It may be having a man appreciate women because he has daughters. It might be a man appreciating, um, it might be showing an appreciation through the love of his mother. Whatever starting point you can establish, and you have to be creative and meet men where they are, is the starting point that we must not avoid taking.
Can you elaborate on initiatives or projects going on that are retraining men to change the way they think, retraining men and boys to change the way that they interact with women and the girls around them?
Yeah, this is real life stuff. It's not like, so, for instance, Connect NYC works with um, young men, right? And you know how challenging it is to work with young men, let's say for 4 years in a row, when maybe you start out with them when they're 13 and then they become 17, all of the changes in their lives and their perceptions of who they are as men, what society tells them it is. So the key component is accompaniment, which means you have to be there throughout a long period of time. So you start out with this awareness, but then you have to keep it going. It's not, and that's the thing. Awareness for each man is different because of their background. So this process of healing is very personal and very individual. So Connect NYC has trainings and working with young men. Um, a Call to Men has a experience of the rigidity of patriarchy and how it limits men's potential, and it's called the Man Box. I'll put the link to A Call to Men in the chat, and you can learn this concept of a man box, which limits men's potential by putting them in a box of patriarchy, which limits their humanity. Because what the belief is that the liberation of men is intimately tied to the liberation of women.
Thank you so much, Carl. Do any of the participants in this discussion have a question or a comment that they would like to share? I see here a question from Monique. What support effort are newly being implemented for women that have spoken up and asked for help in regards to sheltering, emotional support, and providing, what does it say, providing the necessary resources to sustain their lives in the interim of reestablishing themselves again in society? So for our discussants, Namelokai, Priyanka, or Carl Murrell, I will go ahead and, you know, I'll go ahead and repeat the question. The question is, what support effort are newly being implemented for women that have spoken up and asked for help in regards to sheltering, emotional support, and providing the necessary resources to sustain their lives in the interim of reestablishing themselves again in society?
Well, I'll go. So what with Keep Girls Safe Foundation, what we do, because we also help survivors of domestic violence, what we do, the first thing we believe in helping women find themselves, their voice within them. Because most of these women are abused, manipulated, and they lose the sense of self. So we teach them how to do very good self-care so they can heal from inside out. The best thing that I like to say to my women is that you have to feel the pain so that you can heal it. Because what happens is for domestic violence survivor, which I am one, people end up being numb. You become completely numb because you've been living with a perpetrator all this time and you don't want to feel, you just rather deal with it that time, and you don't want to deal with the pain, and just so either you can take care of your children. So many different things can make someone just decide to be numb. So we help women be able to find their core self. Who were they before they started getting abused? And we do that through therapy. So many different methods of therapies. We refer them to specific therapies depending on the cultural belief, because we know that cultures like the African cultures, a lot of women don't like to go to therapy, and there's a lot of stigma of people who are going to therapy. So that's one of the things that we do, at least in Keep Girls Safe Foundation, and we encourage women to speak to other women, and if they don't trust the women in the community, to look for a professional person that they can speak with. And we recruit professional counselors in Kenya and here in the United States who understand the culture perspective that impacts the women from healing. So this is one of the things that we do. I'll turn the mic to someone else to add on that point.
Are any of the participants that are joining us today, do any of you have maybe a response or something that you would like to share in regards to that specific question? If not, we'll move on to the next question that I see here, which is, it seems that the education of boys should start in early childhood. Are there any curricula for early childhood teachers?
Can I intervene? I'm Thomas. Is it okay?
Yes.
I'm Thomas from the Solution Missions, Inc. I represent the Solution Network across 135 countries. And back where I was working in India, called Andhra Pradesh, we have a program for human rights education. So one of the, the goals that we have is that human rights education should become like a culture for them. So we start with children who are in school, in the 7th, 8th, 9th grade, and the human rights clubs trains them to break some of those gender, specific work-related gender relationships. So one of the things we'll be asking for the kids is that, do you at home share your work with your sisters? So we get children coming up and saying that, yes, we accompany them to bring water. We clean the house. So little steps that make a change right from the beginning itself. And we have programs, or we have got 6, 4, 6, 7, 8, 9th grade. And we do it in about 500 schools.
I'm going to ask the participants to please mute your microphones to make this a smooth conversation. I see here that Saraj Roshan has a question that she would like to ask. If you can please unmute yourself. If you can please unmute yourself, we cannot hear you.
Hello, everyone. I wanted to share with you that intergenerational cooperation has been very successful in the work that I have had honor to be part of for the last 30 years. In this time, challenging time, the young people are helping older women to how to get vaccine. The younger people are capable of raising awareness. So to include more young women and young boys to educate and try to bring about changes in customs and traditions, which has been a big challenge for empowering young girls, is my suggestion. Thank you for giving me a chance to speak.
Definitely. Thank you so much for your input and for your perspective.
Milka, this is the Namelokai. I just wanted to add on that point when it comes to boys and girls, what we have done, especially, and I really like what Miss Rosha has said, because that is one of the things that we implemented in 2015 in Kenya specifically. We included middle school children, high school children, because those are the ages that we can be able to start teaching them the importance of equality. So we started teaching boys how to respect girls and girls how to respect women, boys vice versa. And then we paired them with university students who understand the meaning of equality to be able to teach them. And then those kids themselves from small circles of group to go and teach the elders in the community who do not understand English, who do not understand Swahili as the main language, because they only speak Maasai. So they were going to explain it to them, looking at it in a child perspective, because it was easier for the older generation to understand. And we've seen that having broken a little bit of the barrier between the older generation and the younger generation, understanding the importance of why things like female genital mutilation should not go on, and the reason why the domestic violence should not be able to go on, and all abuse that included in women. And so I want to say, Rochelle, that that's very true, that is working. And I encourage everybody in the organization to try that, because it works. At the moment we realize that the young generation are leaders, the sooner we're going to be able to combat all violence against women. This is Namelokai. Thank you for the opportunity.
So I see here that Dixshant Kala wants to ask a question. You can please unmute yourself.
Yeah, hi guys. I'm Dixshant. I'm from Mumbai, India, and I just wanted to add in this that when we talk about educating about domestic violence, we need to understand that these things happens in a very trusted relationships. So if the change has to come, the change has to come from inside, and the awareness is a much longer process. And I understand that we have to keep educating people, we have to keep telling them this is right, this is wrong, but we also need to be aware of our surroundings and try noticing around us and encouraging people to speak out, like how the film, what we saw, it said that it's very internal. The problem in this kind of situation is that even if the society wants to come together, it always comes down to the person who is going through with it, and they avoid it. And what happens is, because these are the trusted relationships, and sometimes your morality doesn't allow you. We are, like, for an example, we are from India, and in India it's how it is, it's very ritual, it's very cultural. So sometimes even if the person wants to address their issue, morally they are not allowed. Like morally, the society will say that okay, it's happened in marriages, you have to work it out. Sometimes it's he doesn't hit you every day, sometimes once in a blue moon it's happened, and people try to avoid these things. We need to, as a society and as a people, we also need to find and spot those people who are suffering from these kind of challenges every day, like domestic violence, and tell them that it's okay to feel that something wrong is happening to you, emotionally be there for them. And that's how we will be able to create a society with the workshops and whatever we are doing these days in a longer run. But also we will be able to identify people and and pick them up and do something in their life by being a little more aware and by being a little more attentive, and try looking for these people and be there, because it's very difficult to it's not about what is right or wrong, it's about for them it's about I will give it a chance again, and I will give it a chance again, and I will give it a chance again. So that pattern needs to break, because I think we need to be more personal also, with all the programs, wonderful programs that we are doing. But we also have to have that acknowledgement around us that it's very deep rooted. People who are suffering with these kind of situations, they don't speak up. Like, even if as a society there are police, there is we were doing some research, and we were trying to know what is happening and what measures are done. So there are in India, there are a lot of domestic violence cell that the government has created, and there are some helpline numbers which are there. But the problem police faces is that whenever we nobody calls, and whenever we say what is the problem, they say no. The woman will say that I slipped on the floor, and that's why I got the hit. The doctors were saying what is there, but they are not opening up. We have to give them a confidence. We have to tell them that whatever it is wrong. Somebody hits you, somebody is not making you comfortable, something is wrong in your vibe. You need to speak out so that we can help. We can't help in this particular situation if the person who's suffering from it is not speaking up.
Definitely. We definitely need to create safe spaces for people to feel comfortable that they will be heard and that they will receive the assistance that they need. Swati, I see that you had your hand up.
Yeah, just further to Dixshant's message and what he was saying, I think it's so difficult coming from also the Indian culture, but talking about all cultures and all areas. How do we get to these people, right? So in the rural areas or the inner cities where they might not, some people might not even have a phone where they could call somebody for help. And culturally, it's taboo to talk about what's happening between a man and a woman, in your own household, where it's accepted by the elders that, oh, your husband hit you, you must have done something wrong, you disrespected him. Or why are they letting them do FGM on young girls when, it's over against the law, but it's culturally all of this, we grew up with it. So how do we change it? How do we reach the areas where the most vulnerable are? What can we do as a community within our own communities, helping other communities that we know? How do we reach these people? So that is my question to the discussants. How can we help?
So I see here, I'm going to give a chance to some of the people who haven't spoken yet. So Mauli Meta, if you can mute yourself.
Thank you so much. So thank you so much, firstly, for giving me the chance to speak. And I just wanted to add on to what Dixshant and Ms. Swati said. I also come from an Indian background, and apart from like giving them the space to speak and creating those safe spaces, I feel it's again very important to go towards, to go in the direction of developing one-stop centers, because I feel like I've come across some people, who have like I've some people whom I've had conversations with. It's very difficult, for them to keep on repeating the incident which might have happened with them again and again and again, because they live through that many number of times. So this is something which I've rarely seen in India and in our culture. And I feel it's very traumatizing for anybody who has had that experience. And again, with creating safe spaces and reaching out to rural and urban areas both, I feel it's important for us to go towards, and it's again a very long process and it's going to take a lot of time, but to create such centers where they don't have to go through this process multiple times. So that's just something which I thought I would like to add. And thank you so much again.
Thank you so much for that perspective. Shanae Osborne, if you can please unmute yourself.
Hi, thank you. Yes, and thank you for the opportunity to speak. I've actually spoken a lot about this. I also am a survivor, and so I'm passionate about this topic. But I think the biggest thing that I've learned through my research is education. And although I hear what others are saying as far as educating everyone, that's important. But I think that if we can start at younger children, even in schools, and trying to work with them. When I did research at USC, we did research on mothers and children of Hispanic descent, and the children were actually teaching the mothers. They said, oh, they told us we can't do this. Oh, they told us we can't do that, as far as, balancing their blood sugars and what have you. So I think that children, we don't give them enough credit. And if we can start teaching them at a lower level as to what is right and what is wrong, they will start to teach others as well. This is kind of like the Sustainable Development Goals. If we all work together and we start teaching kids at a younger age, future generations are going to come forward stronger. And then as far as the other thing that I put into the chat was that I think that all too often we concentrate on the seen abuses and not the unseen abuses. And so many women are experiencing psychological abuse, financial abuse, things that they're not going to be believed in so much. And I think that's a lot of the hesitation of people coming forward and speaking. So I think that we need to educate more healthcare professionals to have more tools to really figure out what's actually going on in their lives and not just say, well, here, you must have anxiety. Maybe try some relaxation exercises, because unfortunately that's what happens a lot. So a lot of victims are fearful of coming forward because they're not going to be believed. So why do it anyway?
Thank you so much, Shanae. Judith Opondo, if you can please unmute yourself.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and thank you so much for giving me this chance. I think, okay, I'm in Kenya, and part of what I have come into experience with is actually the getting to know people who are having these difficult experiences is not our biggest challenge, because majority of them even go to the police stations and report. The challenge is at the point of report, because many cultures accept it. And when they go to report, they are ridiculed, they are asked, they are told that it's not a big problem. But finally, when the problem really gets compounded and you want to help them, getting a safe haven for them is very, very difficult. That is one. And then two, if you are lucky and you get them into a place like that, it becomes very, very challenging going forward, because it looks like the problems are so much in their hands. Most of them are also dependent, almost 100% on the people who are abusing them. So they get so helpless, they can't not get how to survive. So the bigger challenge also becomes how to economically empower them so that they can be on their own. So that is, those are some of the points that I needed to share. And thank you once more.
Thank you so much, Judith, for your contribution. I definitely agree with everything you're saying. I want to have Joanne Moore speak. We only have 5 more minutes left for this breakout session. So if you can keep, your, contribution short, I'm gonna, so we can move on and to the rest. Thank you.
Sure, thank you. It seems to me that this problem is so widespread and so universal across cultures and socioeconomic groups that it would make sense that in teacher training programs at the undergraduate level, that teachers are taught how to teach math or how to teach reading, but they also perhaps should be taught how to teach family values. And if all teachers could have that as a basic understanding, then starting from preschool or childcare centers all the way up, it might help to influence that next generation, because it's so hard to change an entrenched lifestyle that if we could start them as young children, I think we would be more effective.
Definitely, I agree. There definitely needs to be more education at the elementary school level. I think I want to have one last question for Namelokai. What is the cultural justification for female genital mutilation? Where does it start from and why does it continue? If you can keep your response to about 2 minutes so we can formally end the session. Thank you.
Thank you so much for the opportunity. Yes, so in the Maasai community and in most communities in Kenya specifically, and even having done research, female genital mutilation is performed as a rite of passage from childhood to adulthood. It doesn't really have any cultural justification per se. It is considered as a rite of passage It's dying as we go, but there are people who still want to continue with it. This is what the attitude is. My grandma got it done, I'm gonna get it done. And my kids are going to get it done. That's the attitude that we still have in our community. And the other attitude that we have is that it's literally, and I'm biased about this because I am now educated enough to be able to know the negative effects of female genital mutilation. And as a survivor who went to get a reconstructive surgery, I know the importance of this. Our culture has always said that women that are not mutilated smell. So they just have so many taboos that don't make any sense. If you look at research that is showing, and everybody can Google this research, that the forgotten history on circumcision, American forgotten history on circumcision. There's so many vague issues that the reason why it was happening. Some doctors say it got their PhD saying that it's somebody, it healed hysteria, it did heal so many different things. It's just a pure form of oppressing women. And what I found in our communities, women themselves, because they happen to them, they want to continue oppressing the young girls. And so are the men. And once you empower a man through a woman's perspective, then they say that they put the blame back to the women. So there's really no medical benefits for female genital mutilation. Absolutely. It's a cultural belief. It is dying, but we see that it's only dying with the people that want it to die. We have people who are well educated and they're still performing it. So really there's no, that's why it's happening. And then the other thing, like what Judy brought up, Judy, hello. So what happened is that in our communities, it's the issue of you cannot take your laundry out. So the police that are working over there, when you go and report, even in Kenya, there's really no action. The case ends up just going away like that. And then there's a lot of corruption. People can pay their way out in the system. If you have a lot of money and people start making you guilty, you can even get killed by other members of your family.
Thank you so much, Namelokai. I wanted to end the session since we only have 1 minute left. And if the speakers, the discussants, if you can please share your email in the chat as well as the link to your organization so people can follow up with you, that would be really great. So for the participants, thank you so much for engaging in the discussants on issues of violence against women. Thank you also to the discussants for their passion, dedication, and expertise to combat these issues using video imagery to create awareness, teaching healthy masculinity, and advocating for policy change here in the United States and abroad. I do want to provide an update. By September 2020, 48 countries had integrated prevention and response to violence against women and girls into their COVID-19 response plans, and 121 countries had adopted measures to strengthen services for women survivors of violence during the global crisis. But more efforts are urgently needed. At least 155 countries have passed laws on domestic violence, and 140 have laws on sexual harassment in the workplace. Thank you so much for your participation and your contribution. And I hope that you were able to make connections with the discussants and get some ideas on how to address these issues in your communities and in your organizations. So with this, I will be ending this specific discussion. We should be prompted very soon to return back to the main session. Thank you so much. Oh, they're giving us 2 more minutes. So does anyone have maybe a question or a comment that they want to provide in the last 2 minutes? If not,
Crystal, let me just give people, Milka, let me give people some information. If you would like to get more information about how you can impact change in your own community, the simplest thing to do is educate yourself and then start with the villages themselves. Start with the villages, start with the younger generation, because when you train the elementary school kids and you train the high school kids, they have a very unique way of discussing that information with the elder generation that do listen to them, because then they can impact the change. That's what has happened with Keep Girls Safe Foundation, and we are seeing results daily. Thank you so much for the time.
And Joanne Moore? We can't hear you.
I'm sorry, I didn't lower my hand after my last comment. Sorry.
Okay. I think. Okay.
I just wanted to know whether we can watch the film. It will be there somewhere. We can go back to the film which we saw.
Yeah, we can definitely add the link to the chat. If Priyanka, if you can do that, that would be really helpful before they send us back to the main room.
It will also be on our website, un.org/civil society. It is there already under the event scenario, but I will put it in a more visible spot. Very powerful film. Thanks, Priyanka.
Thank you very much, everyone. We're heading back to the main room. Thank you for your
everybody. We'll see you in the main room so we can hear from all the breakout rooms. Please stay with us.
And to you know give some contribution. People are coming back very fast. I'm reaching out to my colleagues. We're not taping right now, so I'm being a bit informal. I'm reaching out to DGC colleagues just to see who will
the system indicates that you're still recording. The system indicates that you're still recording.
Oh, yes, I am. Oh, okay, the main one. Okay. So hopefully I wasn't too informal. So Catherine, do you want to handle the moderation? That's what I was trying to ask the team. People are still coming out of the breakout rooms. Shall I hand over to you?
Sure.
Okay. Over to you.
Welcome back, everyone. You're right, people are just piling into this main room again. So we look forward to hearing about your great conversations. I have been thinking for days ahead of this session about all of the challenges facing women, and I leave these breakout conversations so hopeful about all of the work that everyone here is doing to inspire, to lead, to educate, to promote, to advocate for women. So I'm excited to turn it over to some of our youth leaders and invite them to share what was happening in the conversations. Megan Boyle, I'm going to pass to you so that we can hear about these great conversations. Thanks.
Sure. I was the rapporteur in Dialogue 1, Women's Safety and Access to Healthcare, and I'm going to do my best to kind of do the conversation justice, because it was a very rich conversation, and if you have time, I highly suggest going back and watching the recording later. But we talked about how women and children frequently face the greatest healthcare costs from conflict, even though they themselves are not typically the combatants. So women factor risks into their calculations as to when and if they'll seek medical care. They might delay seeking medical care for emergencies, for example, waiting until daylight to reduce risk, and sometimes those decisions can be fatal. One of our speakers shared that while working in Afghanistan, they knew the worst cases would come in at dawn when it was safer to travel. So transportation exposes women to risks such as attack, roadside bombings, kidnaps, rapes in certain countries. So risks to healthcare workers from activities to improve this include mobile clinics and home visits to help women gain adequate access. And on the extreme end, women can also be attacked just for being in a care facility. For example, the French kind of version of Doctors Without Borders was in a hospital in Kabul, was attacked by gunmen in May of 2020, killing 15 mothers and mothers-to-be, as well as a midwife, along with others present at the hospital at the time. So attacks like this not only remove access to healthcare for women at hospitals, but they mean that Afghan women are less likely to seek proper medical care when complications during labor and delivery arise. So this results in increased maternal and fetal mortality in the future. We also discussed how COVID has reversed decades of progress in women's health. This includes lack of access to health care services due to things like lockdowns and closures, as well as women skipping appointments for fear of contracting COVID-19. And these factors have contributed to a rise of medical challenges and again, fatalities of women during COVID. This also includes a lack of access to contraceptives and other medicines that are essential to women, and proper care during pregnancy has been impacted as well, which stillbirth rates have been on the rise dramatically during the pandemic. And one of the examples given was that in Nepal, there was a 50% rise of stillbirths, which I thought was a very impactful fact. As well as postnatal depression has also risen dramatically during the pandemic due to long periods of isolation and quarantining, which I think a lot of us can agree takes a toll on the mental health. As well as violence in women against girls, violence against women and girls has also been on the rise, and unemployment and poverty are contributing to the shadow pandemic. And this poverty in some situations also leads to an increase in selling girls as child brides, pimping out daughters as prostitutes to help feed families. And a lot of the issues I just discussed, we talked about specifically in Nairobi, where 60% of the population lives in extreme poverty. So poor conditions, living conditions, and inadequate access to healthcare are a huge issue, as well as a lack of access to clean drinking water, and children often playing in dirty water and contracting diseases. And this also for teenagers, sexually transmitted diseases were on the rise. When education was impacted, again, they saw a big increase in violence and sexual violence against girls. Teenage pregnancy rose during 2020. And these families are just in very stressful situations, which unfortunately does often lead to violence and sexual violence against young girls. But on the flip side, we also talked about different solutions that can come out of this. So different ways of looking at things, telehealth, and things like that to try and resolve some of these issues. So with that, I'll pass it to Noah from Dialogue 2.
Yes, I was the rapporteur for Dialogue 2, which was engaging men and boys for gender equality. I just want to thank all the speakers, Sata, Fred, Wanto, our moderator, Chase. It was a very informative discussion. We covered a lot of topics, everything from the role of technology in engaging men and boys, fighting against gender-based violence, involving men in conversations regarding gender equality, paternity leave and maternity leave, the possibility of menstruation-based leave. So yeah, we definitely covered a lot of different issues. Some action points that I thought were quite notable was we talked about the role of social media in engaging men and boys in conversations about gender equality and educating them about their role in this conversation and how they can help affect change and create progress. We talked about collaboration with other organizations to affect change. So for example, Fred Sullivan, one of our speakers, talked about his role with the ILO in getting one of their initiatives, C190, to fight against, to stop sexual harassment in the workplace, and how he's worked with them to get some countries to adopt this initiative into their laws. We've talked about how we can make men stakeholders in the fight for gender equality by involving them in conversations on issues such as maternity leave, paternity leave, and period poverty, and how involving men in these conversations destigmatizes these things, creates a safe space for people affected by these issues, and therefore creates progress in these areas. We talked about specifically with how in some countries paternity leave is becoming adopted, and it's becoming more part of the dialogue regarding gender equality, and how it's important for men to take more of a caretaker role within their families and within society, because this will give them more of an understanding about the traditional role that women have had, therefore destigmatizing like discussions of breaking these kind of gender roles down, and giving women more freedom to pursue careers and interests outside of what they've traditionally been limited to. And lastly, I think Sata Sharif, who was one of our speakers, she summed up the conversation very well when she said that we need to educate men, we need to delegitimize basically gender violence and stop the normalization of gender violence. And lastly, we need to make men stakeholders in conversations about gender equality. Thank you.
Okay, so my name is Anna Peverly. I am the rapporteur for Dialogue 3, which is Ending Violence Against Women and Children. In this dialogue, I would just like to thank all of the speakers and the people who participated with questions and comments. It was very fruitful and interesting dialogue. So we went through quite a bit. We went through domestic violence during the pandemic. We also went through female genital mutilation, as well as how men can lead initiatives to support violence against women. And just some of the things that I thought were most important was when Priyanka stated that in India, there has been a huge rise in call to helplines. And this increase has been larger than the past 10 to 15 years. That kind of caught my surprise. And she said about in the whole world, about 200 million women have sent calls into helplines regarding domestic violence. And that it was also stated that we have to give domestic violence survivors confidence to speak up and places to safely speak up so that they feel welcome and understood about what is happening to them. I kind of noticed a theme throughout a lot of our questions that there's a lot of taboo when it comes to domestic violence, abuse. There was also taboo towards female genital mutilation. And there's, as Namelokai stated, that there is a forgotten history on it that we don't remember. And that was very interesting as well. Also said that for men, what needs to happen is men have to have awareness on how the patriarchy plays a role in their behavior. And this can be done through education when they're little, when they're either like young children or into high school, just educating them on the patriarchy, how the patriarchy goes against women, how it benefits men, teaching them family values, what is right versus wrong. And then from those children will then teach their communities. So yeah, I thought it was a very interesting conversation. Thank you.
Hi everyone, my name is Valentina. I was the rapporteur for Women's Economic Empowerment. And our conversation as well went into many meaningful topics, and I want to thank the moderator and our speakers because it was very inspiring, to be honest. We were talking about the impact of COVID, right? We started with this conversation because it has impacted women greatly, especially for education, as this is a very important topic to empower women. You have to empower girls to have a stable economic life in the future. So just as it is, many women around the world, many girls around the world don't have access to education. And when the pandemic started, it was even worse because the girls that could actually go to school didn't have the possibility anymore, and many of them don't have access to the internet. They don't have devices, right? However, COVID also helped to create new ideas to come together and create new things, come up with new possibilities and opportunities to people, and especially women. Women are in the lead right now. They're creating new fields for women and also men to work in other people and have an opportunity in the economic world, right? Teachers have also, we have mentioned also, thanks to Shavana, that teachers are taking an important leadership role in the girls' life, and how this has impacted greatly the girls' lives, because if they remain in education, and I remember this from Shavana, that she said that if they, after they pass puberty and they're still in education, they're still being educated, they will overcome many things. They will, the chances that they are going to be successful are very high. We also talked about how the role of a woman as a mother, right? I remember Sharon said that 90% of women's income goes to the family. That's something very important. We think that, oh, men are the ones that are bringing everything into the house. No, women's income is coming to a house. It's coming to help the family. So it was very important to know all these things, but also health, right? We mentioned how important it is to be healthy, and this pandemic taught us that health is everything. One day you have it, and the next day you're not healthy. You can't do anything. You can't create new jobs. You can't empower other people. So not just your physical health, but your mental health. We were talking about how we all have to stay home. We cannot see the people we love. We have to keep a mask on constantly. So this has impacted greatly women. As some other people were mentioning, this is impactful for postpartum depression and just depression overall. And how can you support your family if you're depressed, if you're not feeling well mentally? And I would like to end saying that we have to place women in leadership. This has to be something key. We have to place them in leadership. Doesn't matter if it's leading your house with your family. You have to be in important roles that teach you how to guide others, how to handle situations, how to handle work. This is the key to women's empowerment, economic empowerment, to empower these girls that are very young, that have so many dreams. As Nam was saying, there are jobs in the future that we don't even have names for, that these kids are, the kids of our generation are working on, and we don't even know about them, but they do. These kids, these girls, they do, and we have to empower them. We have to be there, and we have to guide them to know how to guide others, how to create opportunities. I really want to thank everybody, and I will pass it to Cairo. Thank you.
Hey everyone, my name is Kara Eubanks and I'm honored to have been the rapporteur for Dialogue 5 #WomenLead. So a brief summary for the sake of time was that discussants shared the significance of visual representation, mentorship, and having strong supporters of female empowerment of all genders. The plan of action for Dialogue 5 #WomenLead were as follows. First, seek guidance and do your research on key role models and communities that you aspire to be part of. Number 2, go through a moment of reflection as well as put together your vision board around where you want to be. Number 3, conduct outreach within your communities. Number 4, start dialogue or Zoom link where you reach out to others. Number 5, hosting storytelling rounds in the community for an empowering circle. Number 6, encourage police policy as well as businesses and other organizations to make it part of their mission that they will conduct mentorship and leadership opportunities within the community. And then last but certainly not least, number 7, invest in your personal professional development, which includes research and education. And I just want to thank our discussants and attendees for Dialogue 5 for such a delightful discussion. And I just want to reiterate, Margot, you did a wonderful job as moderator, and I really appreciated the opportunity to get to contribute meaningfully to the conversation and dialogue as well. I would now like to transition to handing the next portion of the event to Megan. Thank you.
Thank you, Cairo. And thank you again for everyone joining the discussion today. We hope that this is only the first in a series of briefings and chats that helps to shed light on such a global conversation. And clearly each of the dialogues discussed today could potentially be a briefing in themselves because of how vast each of these issues truly are. And the UN is constantly trying to make strides in the world to make it more peaceful and sustainable for people of all races, religion, and genders. And women really do play a vital role in societies and are truly the backbones of many communities. So as communities across the globe start to try and build back post-COVID, women, who were most often the hardest hit by the pandemic, will also play a vital role in this recovery process. So like Valentina said, including women in decision-making and planning positions and putting women at the center of economies, ensuring equal pay, ensuring adequate access to healthcare will only allow for the world to recover faster and build back better after COVID. And one final thought that we talked about in dialogue one was not only the problems associated with gender equality, but just as important solutions and ways to potentially move forward. And an important mark made by Professor Gabriella Casper is one that I kind of want to leave everybody with. And she said, advocate, educate, and collaborate. And I truly think that this is the best way for civil society as well as individuals to help make the biggest advancements in gender equality. With that, I also encourage everyone to check out the Civil Society Unit's website and look at the gender equality action stories, because it's a great place to share work done by civil society, and it gives people a platform to discuss their different initiatives. So I highly recommend reading through some of those stories and submitting the work of your own organizations. So as this concludes our session today, I just want to thank everybody who participated to make this briefing on resilience and strength for gender equality happen. So a big thank you again to all of our speakers, moderators, organizers, rapporteurs, and of course, all the participants who helped make this discussion format not only possible, but I think very successful. And the recordings of each of these dialogue breakouts rooms will be shared later, so you can go back and maybe watch some of the rooms that you were not a part of today. And we hope to see everybody again in the next event in this series. So until then, I hope everyone stays safe and healthy and has a happy Friday and a great weekend. So thank you.